Folks, today I want to talk to you about something that's changed my life, turned my world upside down, and can do the same for you if you'll let it, the power of silence. I want to speak to you about why you've got to focus on your own journey, your own winding path through this crazy life, and stop letting the noise of this world drown out what really matters, what keeps you grounded, what keeps you going when the days get dark. We live in a world that's jam-packed with distractions, social media buzzing like a hive of bees, notifications pinging day and night, opinions flying at you from every corner like arrows in a battle, gossip spreading faster than wildfire through dry grass, criticism hitting you square in the face like a cold slap on a winter morning. People love to talk. They talk about you. They dig up your past like it's some buried treasure they've got a right to claim. They pick apart your mistakes like vultures circling a carcass on the side of the road. I've seen it everywhere I go. Folks whispering behind hands, pointing fingers, spinning stories that twist the truth into knots. But I'm here to tell you today, right now, with every ounce of conviction in my soul, it's time to shut out the voices of the world and tune in to the voice of God, the one who knows you, the one who made you, the one who's calling you higher. This world we're stuck in is loud, constant chatter, filling the air like static on an old radio. Folks telling you how to live your life, what you ought to do with your days, who you should be to fit their mold. Everywhere you turn, there's a voice trying to pull you off track, trying to shape you into something you're not, something God never meant you to be. I've watched good people, honest, hard-working folks, waste their days chasing approval from folks who don't even matter, folks who'll forget him by next week, letting criticism knock them down to their knees, letting rejection define who they are in their own minds, letting doubt creep into their hearts like a thief sneaking through an unlocked door. All because they're listening to the wrong voices, the loud ones, the ones that shout over the still small whisper of God. Let me tell you something straight from my own life. I've been there, caught up in that storm of noise, and it nearly broke me. Years ago, I was a young guy just starting out, barely 25, voice shaking like a leaf in the wind, hands sweaty as I gripped a rickety pulpit in little towns nobody's heard of. Oh, places with more cows than people. I'd preach my heart out under tin roofs, rain drumming loud, and the noise was deafening, not just the weather, but the voices. Folks said, "You're too green, kid. You'll never fill a church. You're dreaming too big. You're wasting your time on this preaching nonsense." I'd walk home under the stars, gravel crunching under my worn-out shoes, crickets chirping in the bushes, head spinning like a top. What if they're right? What if I fail? What if I've got this all wrong and I'm chasing shadows? It was a storm in my mind, a racket I couldn't shake, a weight pressing down on my chest till I could hardly breathe. I'd sit on my porch, wood creaking, paint peeling, staring at the horizon where the sun dipped low, wondering if I should pack it in, go back to farming, and leave the pulpit behind. But one night, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my Bible, old and leather-bound from my daddy's shelf, pages crinkling under my fingers, and I flipped it open under a flickering lamp. There it was, Lamentations 3:26, like a lifeline thrown to a drowning man. It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. That hit me hard. Wait quietly, trust God, let the noise fade into nothing. I stopped right there, lamp buzzing, moths dancing in the light. Looked up at the sky, stars sharp as diamonds, and said, "Lord, I'm done listening to them. I'm listening to you. I'm waiting on you." I shut my ears to the chatter, shut my mouth to the arguments, and you know what? The world kept talking, kept buzzing, kept shouting, but I found peace in the silence, a peace that settled deep in my bones, a peace that told me God was working even when I couldn't see it. That's what I'm begging you to today. Stop running after the crowd's applause. Stop dancing to their tune and start resting in God's direction. Start listening for his voice above the din. Look at Jesus. He's our example, the perfect picture of silence in the storm. The Pharisees hounded him like dogs on a hunt, throwing words like stones, sharp cutting meant to bruise, trying to trap him with their questions, mock him with their sneers, tear him down with their doubts. The crowds cheered him one day, Hosanna, ringing through the streets, then shouted, "Crucify him." The next, their voices turning like the wind. People questioned his authority. Who's this carpenter? Doubted his mission. He's stirring trouble, even challenged his identity. Can anything good come from Nazareth? But Jesus, He didn't let their noise shake him one bit. He didn't waste breath defending himself to folks who'd made up their minds, folks who'd never believed no matter what he said. When they dragged him before Pilate, dust on his robe, blood on his brow, lice flying thick as flies, Matthew 27:14 says, but Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor. He stayed silent, not because he was weak, not because he had nothing to say, but because he was strong, focused, locked in on his Father's will, steady as a rock in a raging river. I've learned that myself. Back in '52, I was preaching in a small hole somewhere in Georgia, wooden walls sweating in the heat. And a group stood outside yelling through the windows, he's a fraud, he's a fool, he's leading folks astray. My blood boiled. I could feel it rising hot and fast. I wanted to march out there, set him straight, tell him what's what. But I remembered Jesus, silent before Pilate, eyes fixed on the cross ahead, and I stayed put, kept preaching, voice steady. Next night, that hall was full, folks spilling out the doors, hungry for truth. God fought that battle, not me, and he won it bigger than I ever could have dreamed. So why do we let the opinions of others control us? Why do we let negative voices clutter up our minds, piling up like junk in an attic, when God's already called us chosen, redeemed, loved beyond measure? Well, I've walked that road, worried over every whisper, every sideways glance, and it's a dead end, folks, a trap that'll keep you spinning in circles. Here's the truth. When you stop listening to the world's racket, when you turn down the volume on all that noise, you get clarity, you get freedom, you get a glimpse of what God's really up to in your life. You stop second guessing every step you take. Is this right? Will they like it? Stop feeling like you've got to explain every choice to every critic under the sun, every busybody with an opinion. I met a woman once, Sarah, down in Tennessee. Husband left her after 15 years, walked out with nothing but a suitcase and a shrug, left her with 2 kids and a mortgage. Neighbors whispered behind curtains, she's washed up, she's done, poor thing will never make it. She'd sit on her porch, rocking chair creaking, paint chipped, head in her hands, drowning in their words, their pity, their poison. I pulled up a chair one evening, sun setting orange over the hills, and said, Sarah, hush that noise. Stop listening to them. Listen to God, he's got something for you. She looked at me, eyes tired, lines deep, and nodded slow. She started praying in silence every morning, coffee cooling on the table, Bible open in her lap, stopped answering the gossip, stopped caring what they thought. And you know what? She opened a little bakery, flour dusting her apron, yeast rising in the air, smile breaking through her face like dawn after a long night, because she tuned out the trash. A plan bigger than the small minds around her. I've seen it again. Met a fella, John, up in Ohio, lost his job. Friends said, you're too old to start over, sit it out. He didn't argue, went quiet, worked odd jobs, prayed under the stars. Now he's running a carpentry shop, hands rough with sawdust part his problem. Silence lets you ditch the junk, worrying about opinions that shift like sand, chasing approval from folks who'll turn on you tomorrow. And focus on what matters, your purpose, your faith, your growth, the stuff that lasts. You'll hear God's voice clearer than ever, whispering through the chaos. This is the way, walk in it, I'm with you. It's peace like a river flowing steady, confidence like a rock you can stand on, freedom you can't buy with money or applause, freedom that comes when you let go and let God lead. Jesus didn't need to prove himself, and neither do you. Folks, that's a truth that'll set you free if you grab hold of it. Galatians 1:10 cuts right to the heart of it, sharp as a blade. Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. I've lived that, I've walked that tightrope. Early on, I'd fret over every frown in the pews. Did they like it? Are they nodding? Are they clapping? Every letter that came in the mail saying you're too loud, too bold, tone it down. I'd sit at my desk, pen scratching, lamp buzzing, wondering if I should soften it, tweak it, make him happy. But one day it hit me. God's approval trumps it all. His nod's the only one I need. I stopped bending, stopped bowing, and started serving him alone. You don't need to justify your dreams to folks who don't get it, who can't see it, who won't cheer you on. I knew a guy, Tom, factory worker in Kentucky. Family laughed when he said, I'm gonna start a business, build something. They rolled their eyes, With your greasy hands? He didn't argue, didn't explain. He worked quiet nights in his garage, tools claying, prayed hard with sweat on his brow. Today, he's got a shop, sign swinging out front, employs 10 folks. While they're still talking, still doubting, still stuck. I met a girl, Lisa, out in California. Wanted to paint, folks said that's a hobby, not a life. She didn't fight, picked up her brushes, prayed in the quiet, sold her first piece last month. Gallery's calling now. Your life's the proof, not your words. Your steps, not their stairs. Take Nehemiah, lean on when the noise gets loud. He was building that wall in Jerusalem, bricks stacking high, dust in the air, and his enemies shouted from below, "You'll fail, it's weak, come down." Fight us, argue with us, they mocked him. A fox will knock it over, spread lies, he's a rebel, tried to drag him into the game. But Nehemiah 6:3 says it all clear as day. I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. He didn't waste breath on mine. He stayed silent, kept building, hands steady, eyes up, and that wall stood tall, a fortress against their noise. That's you, folks, doing a great work, growing in faith, stepping into God's call, brick by brick. Don't come down for the haters. Don't step off the wall for the doubters. I've seen it myself. Preached in a city once. Big event papers wrote, "He's a flash in the pan, he'll fizzle out." I could have run to the editor. Print this, hear me out. But I kept quiet, kept going, kept stacking my bricks. Decades later, those papers are gone, yellowed in some archive, but the message lives. Souls saved, lives changed. I knew a farmer, been down in Alabama. Neighbors said your crops will die, sell the land. He didn't bite, worked silent, prayed over his fields. Harvest came heavy while they watched. You gross your answer, let it shout while you stay still. Let it rise while they ramble. Now let's talk focus. Stop comparing. Stop measuring yourself against the next guy. Stop peering over fences at greener grass that ain't even real. Galatians 6:4 says it plain and true. Let each one examine his own work, and then he will have reason for boasting in himself alone and not in someone. I used to look at other preachers, bigger crowds filling stadiums, fancier suits shining under lights, voices booming, and think, I'm behind, I'm small, I'm missing it. I'd sit in my room, radio crackling their sermons, feeling like a shadow, like I'd never catch up. But God showed me one night, my path's mine, not theirs, my race is my own. I stopped staring, started running, my lane, my pace. Look at David, shepherd boy out in the hills, brothers in the army with swords gleaming, shields polished, armor clanking, looking sharp in the king's ranks. He didn't chase their spotlight, didn't beg for a sword or a title. He slung rocks at wolves, played his harp under the stars, worshipped alone with the sheep bleating saw. When Goliath loomed, 9 feet of muscle and menace, David was ready. Not because he copied his brothers, not because he chased their glory, but because he grew where God planted him quiet and steady. I met a kid, Jake, 20 years old, down in Texas. Friends all in college, ties and books, he's fixing cars in a garage, grease under his nails. They laugh, you know where you're stuck. He didn't flinch, worked silent, built skills, wrenches turning, prayed with oil on his hands. Now he owns that garage sign painted red base full, while they're still figuring life out, still chasing degrees. I knew a widow, Ellen, out in Kansas. Kids, grown folks said retire rest. She didn't listen. Started sewing quilts, needle threading quiet. Solomon Fairs built a name. Your journey's yours. God's prepping you in the shadows, sharpening you in the stillness, even when the world can't see it, even when it's just you and him. Distractions, they're the devil's game. Negativity swirling like a dust storm. Drama popping up like weeds. Folks dragging you into their mess, their fights, their noise. Proverbs 4:25 says, let your eyes look straight ahead, fix your gaze directly before you. I've had my phone ringing off the hook. Come debate this, argue that. Prove yourself, I say no time. I'm on a mission, I've got a road to run, like Nehemiah. I've told them over and over, I'm doing a great work, can't come down, won't come down. A lady I know, Mary up in Michigan, co-workers jabbed at her. You're too slow, too old, step aside. She didn't bite, focused on her job, silent as stone, hands steady at her desk. Got promoted last year, corner office, their jaws dropped while they griped in the break room, still spinning their wheels. I met a dad, Mark, out in Oregon. Neighbor said, your boy's wild, you failed. He didn't argue, prayed quiet, loved steady, kids thriving now, critics quiet. Keep your eyes on your goal. Don't waste energy on the sideshow. Don't spill your strength on the small stuff. I've walked into rooms, folks whispering he's too simple, too loud, and kept my gaze forward, kept my feet moving, kept my heart locked on God. Distractions fade when you're fixed on what's ahead, your purpose, your call, your finish line. Sometimes silence is your weapon, your shield, your sword, your victory, and you've got to let God fight. Exodus 14:14 says it clear as crystal. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. I've seen it. 60s big event in a city square. Critics swarm like locusts. See stirring trouble. Shut him down. I held my tongue. Didn't yell back. Didn't swing. Prayed under a street lamp shadows long. God moved. Thousands came hearts open. Critics scattered like dust in the wind. Jesus before Pilate, silent, dust on his feet, lies in the air. He let the cross speak, let the empty tomb roar. I met a man, Paul, down in Florida. Boss fired him, spread lies. He's lazy, he's dumb. Paul didn't fight, prayed quiet on his porch, rocking chair swaying, weights crashing nearby. New job came, better pay, corner desk, while the boss floundered, lies falling flat. I knew a girl, Rachel, out in Nevada. Friends ditched her, she's weird, she's lost. She stayed still, prayed in her room, curtains drawn, built a life, found new folks who lift her up. Silence isn't giving up. It's trusting God to swing the sword, to clear the path, to hush the storm while you stand firm. Here's the payoff. Focus on your purpose and critics shrink. Noise fades, chaos crumbles. Nehemiah built that wall, enemies faded into the dust of history, their shouts lost to time. Jesus saved the world, Pharisees forgot, their words buried under the weight of the cross. Your calling's bigger than the noise. Stay silent, trust God, and watch him work wonders you can't even dream. I've lived it. Started with a mic and a prayer, noise all around like a swarm of flies. He'll flop, he's nothing. They kept going. Preached in tents with rain leaking, halls with echoes bouncing, fields with wind howling, silence my shield, focus my fire. Today, it's not the words I hear, it's lives changed, it's folks finding hope, it's God's whisper cutting through. I'm a teacher. Clara out in Missouri, parents said, you're too strict, too soft. She didn't bend, talked quiet, prayed steady, kids soared, critics hushed. Your purpose outlasts their chatter, your legacy's not their sneers, it's God's hand on you. So today, folks, shut out the chatter, turn off the static, listen to him, walk your path. He's got you, every step, every stumble, every sunrise. You're free when you surrender, free from opinions weighing you down, free to be God's, free to run your race with the wind at your beck and his voice in your ear.